report. Let the doors be opened. Statements by members. Déclaration des députés. L'honorable député de...
The honourable member for Joliette. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Want to hear some bad ideas? You can count on the Liberals for that, especially the Prime Minister. After buying Trans Mountain, after legalizing pot in a clearly premature move, the bad idea of the week? A commissioner for leaders' debates. Now that's a Russian nesting doll of bad ideas. You open it up and inside one bad idea, there is another. We're going to pay $5.5 million to a former Governor General. Now, Governor General, that's someone who's really in touch with the concerns of the world, to produce 2 television shows, and the parties won't have to participate, and the broadcasters who want to organize their own debate will be able to do so, and the government will choose the commissioner all by itself, and so on. Instead of wasting people's money, the government should start to be useful, compensating farmers, reimbursing Quebec for the costs of asylum seekers, transferring decent amounts for health. That's being useful.
For Surrey Centre.
Mr. Speaker, today we remember the day in 1984 when riots took place on the streets of Delhi and numerous other cities across India. Organized mobs in the city killed thousands of innocent Sikhs only because of the choice of their faith. Sikh homes were ID'd, tagged, and systemically targeted. Mobs came out, women were raped, men were burned by having tires placed on them and lighted, and children were killed for simply having unshorn hair. It's a memory that haunts Sikhs every day. 34 years later, we still await justice for those women, widows, and orphans. Canadians stand with the Sikhs of India and demand justice for the victims. Our prayers are forever with them, and we will never forget. Thank you.
The honourable member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
On October 13th, I attended the Jessica Martel Memorial Foundation Gala in Morinville, held in remembrance of Jessica Martel, who was brutally murdered in an act of domestic violence. Across Canada, families live in fear, and many victims have nowhere to turn. Jessica was one of those victims. She chose to leave an abusive relationship, and her decision cost her her life. In memory of her daughter, Lynn Rosenchuk, an extraordinary woman, together with the friends and family of Jessica, took action. In September, the foundation broke ground on Jessie's house, a home to support survivors of domestic abuse in my riding and surrounding areas. In November, Alberta recognizes Family Violence Awareness Month. I call on the government to support initiatives like Jessie's House that help break the cycle of violence and support survivors of domestic abuse in our communities.
Honorable député de Missisquoi.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On October 10th, I announced an investment of $210,000 by the Minister of Heritage to renovate the Round Barn in Mansonville, a village located in the furthest eastern reaches of Brome-Missisquoi. This barn, one of the 6 remaining in the eastern townships, was built in 1912 and is a true jewel in the crown of our heritage. The money will renovate the structure and make it sound. Therefore, it will be ready to receive visitors who wish to renew their connection with their past. During my visit to Mansonville, I visited the Volunteer Action Center for Missisquoi Nord. The center offers support and coordination services for volunteers and includes over 191 registered members. I also met the very dynamic team that makes this magnificent community shine. I would like to especially thank the General Director, Mabel Hastings, for her warm welcome.
Minister to visit the center in Putton. Great job, Mabel.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagotte. Mr. Speaker, every day cars have to stop on the Trans-Canada Highway 20 to let CN's rail cars through. Every year, Transport Canada updates its sad list of railway crossings where the risk of accident is the highest in the country, and unfortunately my riding is on that list. The transportation of goods, very affordable, and so the transportation of goods is going to spike on this railway over the next few years. We need a structure, a bridge, that will eliminate the risk of accident in this odd railway crossing. Saint-Hyacinthe is the only place in Canada, perhaps North America, where a railway crosses a highway. I've submitted the file to my colleagues, the Ministers of Transport and the Minister of Infrastructure, and I hope to have their full cooperation to make Saint-Hyacinthe and Acton safe.
On Halloween,
Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to stand in the House today to commend the management, staff, volunteers, and all participants of the Sault Ste. Marie Soup Kitchen who are celebrating the 35th anniversary. Specifically, I'd like to thank and congratulate Mr. Tony Martin, founder of the Soup Kitchen, and recently, at a special ceremony in front of family and friends, the Tony Martin Community Hall was dedicated to him. Mr. Speaker, many people in this House would know Tony, as he served as the MPP for the Sioux from 1990 to 2003, and as an MP from 2004 to 2011. Tony was a champion in this initiative and brought a valuable resource to our community. The Sault Ste. Marie Soup Kitchen is a special place. They operate several programs to assess people in a respectful and collaborative manner. They offer a nutritious free meal at 12 noon every day, the Good Food Box, and sponsor a family program, 2 after-school initiatives, and many more. Congratulations and best wishes to Tony and the generosity that he has created within our community. Thank you to his family. Thank you to everyone at the Soup Kitchen.
The honourable member for Calgary Signal Hill.
Mr. Speaker, this past weekend I was watching Global News and I saw the report that Statistics Canada, without consent, was preparing to gather personal financial information from some 500,000 Canadians. Now, when I saw that, I said, this can't be true. Well, it is true, Mr. Speaker, because over the past 2 days, the Prime Minister has not only confirmed this, but he's also doubled down. He says Canadians' private information will be protected. But this is also the guy who said he would balance budgets and that budgets would balance themselves, Mr. Speaker. Sounds to me like this is another one of these cases, I'm here from government and I want to help. Well, Mr. Speaker, not even my wife knows about my own personal financial transactions, so why does the Prime Minister think he has the right to snoop into my transactions and 500,000 Canadians, Mr. Speaker? This Prime Minister is finally demonstrating what we've all known, his long-held beliefs, that he has deep admiration for China's basic dictatorship. The
honourable member for Don Valley East.
Monsieur le Président, le 27...
Mr. Speaker, on October 27th, I organized a meeting with local citizens with my colleague for Down Valley West to discuss the track record of the government over the last 3 years. We asked constituents to choose top 3 issues: economy, climate change, poverty alleviation, youth strategy, national housing strategy, immigration, and legalization of cannabis.
To our surprise, climate change was their top priority. They all support the price on pollution, and they want us to do more. They feel that climate change is an urgent issue, and they would like to leave their children and grandchildren with a positive legacy. Unlike the Conservatives, they want action now. Les citoyens sont d'avis que la province reflectée sont imprudents et que l'opinion de ceux qui nient l'évidence de la science n'est pas pertinente de la discussion. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Louis. Mr. Speaker, the city of Beaconsfield
received the Municipalité Écono attestation from the group Réseau Environnement for its ambitious efforts in the area of water conservation. The attestation recognizes the city's infrastructure leak detection program, its efforts to raise awareness about drinking water conservation, and the quality of the information in the water section of the city's website.
The consumption of drinking water for Beaconsfield continues to go down year after year. Replacing underground infrastructure, thanks to, among other things, the New Building Canada Fund, has allowed the city to improve the efficiency of their water distribution network.
To Mayor Georges Bourrel, Councillor Karen Messier, the environmental conscience of the city, and all council members for their leadership in helping to protect Canada's most vital resource, water. Bravo, Beaconsfield!
The honourable member for Banff Airdrie.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to pay tribute to Myron and Dorothy Thompson from Sundre, Alberta. This couple came to Ottawa in 1993 with the high ideals of taking on the political elites and returning power to the grassroots. These were Myron's non-negotiable core values as he served as the Member of Parliament for Wildrose for 15 years, winning 5 consecutive elections. And there wasn't one person in the parliamentary precinct who didn't know Myron, with his white Stetson and his cowboy boots, and he was friends with everyone. In the House, he was legendary for his straight-talking, fire and brimstone speeches, with his steadfast belief in God guiding his way. People would literally line up to chat with Myron, while journalists used to refer to him as the John Wayne of Parliament Hill. He was authentic and he cared. He mentored and he made a difference. And I can personally attest to that because a phone call from Myron in 1992 would change my life. He took a chance on this young whippersnapper, as he would say, and he gave me a start in politics, and one that ultimately led me to being able to succeed him here in Parliament. So Myron, please know that everyone in this House, at home, and all across Canada are with you and Dot in this fight.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Willowdale.
Mr. Speaker, it's an honor to rise in the House today in support of M155, a private member's motion recognizing Filipino Heritage Month brought forward by my good friend, the member for Scarborough Centre. As a Member of Parliament for one of Canada's most diverse ridings, which includes a sizable and vibrant Filipino-Canadian community, it brings me great joy to see the invaluable contributions of the Filipino-Canadian community to our country, our economy, and our society formally recognized in this chamber. The richness of the Filipino-Canadian community is on full display every day in Willowdale. Other communities across Canada are similarly blessed. According to the 2016 census, there are over 800,000 people of Filipino descent living in Canada, and Filipinos are the fastest growing community in Canada, with 27% population growth since 2011. In short, we are truly blessed as a country. The community is without a doubt an essential part of our uniquely Canadian mosaic, and I am honored to join my...
The Honourable Member for Humber River Black Creek.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in the House today to recognize International Religious Freedom Day, October the 27th. In light of the most recent horrific events in Pittsburgh, it is important to recognize that the protection of religious freedoms is a fundamental right of all Canadians. Unfortunately, in many parts of the world, people of all faiths face persecution. This is why it is enormously important to make sure that religious freedom is respected and protected by all. Where religious freedoms flourish, there is greater stability and more economic opportunity. Today and all days, we should always underscore our commitment to peace and inclusion at home and abroad for all religious and faith communities. Thank you, Mr.
Honourable Member for Durham.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to mention 3 dates to the attention of this House. September 17th, when the Honourable Member from Aurora, Oak Ridge's Richmond Hill said to this House she'd lost confidence in the Prime Minister and the Liberal government and crossed the floor. She relied on her oath as a former officer to do that, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister at the time said that was fine. He wished her well. The next date, last night, October 30th, Devil's Night, Mr. Speaker, when the true plot of our feminist Prime Minister came to pass. He marched in his zombies on Devil's Night to vote against a female Member of Parliament who served in the Canadian Armed Forces. Even the cabinet was there for that shameful episode. The member from Etobicoke Centre, who spent millions of dollars fighting for integrity in elections, stormed the stage to run a sham meeting, Mr. Speaker, that has no application. The final date, Mr. Speaker, October 21st, 2019, when more Canadians can follow her lead and support the Conservatives.
The Honourable Member for Bay of Quinte.
Mr. Speaker, today I'm pleased to congratulate the City of Belleville on winning the grand prize for the Kraft Heinz Project Play. Belleville will receive $250,000 towards its Field of Ability, which will modify Parkdale Veterans Park Diamond into a fully accessible ballpark. The Field of Ability will support rubberized surface and accessible dugouts, as well as improved fencing, parking, paved pathways to provide a barrier-free sporting grounds. It will be home to our Challenger Baseball League, open to persons of all ages with cognitive or physical disorders. The Field of Ability will also be the first of its kind in the Bay of Quinte riding and in all the surrounding regions between Ottawa and Toronto. Earlier this year, when I attended a local fundraising event for the Field of Ability, the goal of raising $700,000 for this project seemed further afield than most of us would have liked. But through Project Play, we're now halfway to our goal of building it, so more will be able to play. A big thank you to all the community volunteers behind this project. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, women and organizations have been defending women's rights for more than 42 years. For the Liberals to finally keep their promise on pay equity, I would like to seize this opportunity to thank women for their hard work and their determination. Bravo, ladies. Thanks to your hard work, the government has finally listened to reason and taken a step in the right direction. However, we sincerely hope that the government will agree to work with opposition parties, unions, and women's groups, or any other qualified people. We hope that, above all, the government will listen to their advice in order to improve the bill, which is far from perfect. Many questions remain, and the fact that women risk not being entitled to pay equity for another 4 years is very concerning. In Quebec, this type of legislation was passed nearly 22 years ago. Women have waited long enough. Let's roll up our sleeves and work on what's needed to improve the bill and pass it.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
Our self-declared feminist Prime Minister has yet again sought political revenge on a woman who does not agree with him. Last night, Liberal members of the NATO Parliamentary Association attempted to overthrow my colleague, the member for Aurora Oak Ridges Richmond Hill, from her position as chair. And you might ask why. Well, it was for no other reason than to take revenge on the member for standing up for Canadians rather than blindly following the Prime Minister.
That's right.
A feminist government would champion all women rather than pervert democracy for selfish gain through retaliatory action.
Yeah.
The member who currently serves as the NATO chair is extremely qualified. As a respected veteran, she served as a captain in the Royal Canadian Air Force and worked as a senior manager in the Department of National Defence and in the aerospace and defence industry for more than 30 years. Despite the Liberals' unfounded, undemocratic, and altogether hostile protest, the member remains the qualified and distinguished chair. Conservatives support democracy, and we support her.
Honourable Member for Scarborough-Guildwood.
Mr. Speaker, for years I've had the privilege of sponsoring the Association of Progressive Muslims' annual Eid dinner on the Hill. The President, Mobeen Khaja, has worked tirelessly among all faith groups to make this dinner a celebration of peace and respect for people of all backgrounds. In addition to earning him the Order of Ontario, Mobeen's decades-long efforts were recognized and acknowledged last week when he and his colleagues met with Pope Francis in Rome. At a time when we see conflict, violence, and disrespect toward people of faith, most recently the horrific attack on the Jewish community in Pittsburgh, Mobeen and the Pope have shown everyone that there is another way. The world could use a lot more of the quiet wisdom of Mobeen and the Pope and a lot less of the bombastic rhetoric that showers us daily. I'd like to offer my congratulations to Mobeen and the Association of Progressive Muslims for the work that they do to build bridges among all people of all.
Oral questions. Questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, we know that this government has already had access to thousands, if not millions, of Canadians' personal information without their consent. On at least 2 occasions, data was confiscated from a credit office. This data includes names, addresses, and SIN numbers, and more. This is a huge intrusion into the private lives of Canadians. Will the Prime Minister do his job and immediately tell the government to stop this activity? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we ensure that the personal information of Canadians is protected. Statistics Canada will use anonymized data for statistical purposes only. No personal information will be made public. Statistics Canada is working with the Privacy Commissioner's Office to ensure that Canadians' banking information remains protected and private. The Chief Statistician has asked the Privacy Commissioner to take a second look at the project to ensure that the personal information of Canadians is protected. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
It's not about the process that this government is following. It's about the fundamental right of Canadians to have their personal financial information protected. It's not about what's being made public. It's about whether or not this government thinks it has a right to peer into individuals' bank accounts and access line-by-line transactions. Will he do the right thing and tell his government department to stop accessing Canadians' private information?
Speaker, this government will always make sure that Canadians' privacy is protected. Statistics Canada will use anonymized data for statistical purposes only. No personal information will be made public. Statistics Canada is engaged with the Privacy Commissioner's Office on this project and is working with them to ensure Canadians' banking information remains protected and private. The Chief Statistician has asked the Privacy Commissioner to take a deeper look at this project and so as to ensure that the privacy of Canadians is always protected.
Full Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it's not about what the Prime Minister wants to do with this information. It's about the fact that he doesn't have a right to take it in the first place. This is not anonymized data, Mr. Speaker. This is line-by-line financial transactions linked to individual social insurance numbers. He's not protecting Canadians' privacy, Mr. Speaker. He's violating the Canadians' rights to privacy. He has a choice right now. He can stop this. He can stand up for Canadians' right to have their personal information protected. Will he do so?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this government will always ensure that Canadians' privacy is protected. That's why we're working and making sure that the Privacy Commissioner is working with the head of StatsCan to ensure that all privacy norms are protected. But once again, Mr. Speaker, we see that for 10 years under the Conservatives, they chose to govern by ideology, not science. When facts got in the way, they simply stopped collecting them. They fired the Chief Science Advisor. They eliminated the long-form census. They chose to get rid of facts when facts got in the way. We're going to make sure we're making sound decisions based on facts while protecting privacy.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister can try to deflect responsibility all he wants. The fact of the matter is he has the ability, he has the power right now to stand up for Canadians' right to privacy. Now, he seems to be confused. He seems to think that if the government has access to your data, that that's somehow protecting your privacy. Does he not understand that protecting privacy doesn't just mean not making it public? It also means ensuring that government doesn't have the right to intrude into private lives of Canadians individuals.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, not only do we believe in facts and evidence, but we fundamentally believe in the strong work that the Privacy Commissioner does to protect Canadians' privacy. This is something that we believe and cherish on this side of the House, and we will always protect Canadians' privacy, which is why we are ensuring that Statistics Canada works with the Privacy Commissioner to ensure that they are always protecting Canadians' privacy. The Conservatives are yet again trying to stir up fear and division and attack facts. We will protect Canadians' privacy and rely on data.
Order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, once again, this Prime Minister seems to think that he, as Prime Minister and his government, has the right to go into line-by-line detail for Canadians' bank accounts and credit cards. Conservatives will always stand up against that kind of intrusion in the lives of Canadians. He talks about protecting privacy. privacy, Mr. Speaker, just last year, this Liberal government was forced to pay $17.5 million in a class action lawsuit over a major privacy breach involving student loan recipients. This government's track record on protecting Canadians' right to privacy is a disaster. Will he do the right thing, stand up for Canadians' right to privacy, and end this practice?
I'd invite the honourable member for Cape Breton Council and others, of course, to remember the time to speak when they have the floor. I'm sure he knows that. Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, not only do we respect and protect Canadians' privacy, we also respect the Privacy Commissioner, whose job it is to ensure that Canadians' data and Canadians' privacy is properly protected. The members opposite haven't once mentioned the excellent work that the Privacy Commissioner does and will continue to do. We will choose to work with the Privacy Commissioner to ensure that we continue to protect Canadians' data. That is something that they won't do because they prefer to play politics with this. Well, we will continue to use the right tools to protect Canadians' privacy.
The Honourable Member for Musqueam Basque. Mr. Speaker, while the Liberals are asleep at the switch when it comes to taxing web giants, other countries are taking action. Yesterday, the UK announced it would be introducing a 2% tax on digital services. 10 days ago, Spain announced a 3% tax on the same services. And the EU is considering a 3% tax on revenues for web giants. And we can't be bothered to put a simple sales tax that our own companies have to pay. The Prime Minister said on the red carpet at La Disque that he had heard the call from the cultural industry. It's all fine and well to hear it, but the question is, when is he going to take some action? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the examination of the Broadcasting Act is currently underway, but we didn't wait to take action. We have invested $3.2 billion in our artists and creators, the largest investment in the G7. We have doubled funding for the Council of Arts. We have reinvested $675 million into CBC Radio-Canada. We've added $172 million to the Media Fund, and we are proud of supporting our artists and creators. We will continue to do so. The Honourable Member. I don't think he understood the question. I talked about taxing web giants. He's not taxing web giants. It doesn't surprise me because the government is inconsistent when it comes to tax matters. The CRA audited 332,000 files on Canadians receiving benefits, but it's incapable of processing the files of the 3,000 Canadians implicated in the Panama Papers. Now, the answer the minister sputtered out yesterday is, we've spent $1 billion for investigations. We know that. $1 billion rather, to persecute Canadians who aren't rich enough to expend themselves. What? Right Honourable Prime Minister. Yes, we have invested significant amounts of money in the CRA. To achieve results, we adopted an international standard of the OECD. We have taken steps to ensure that any type of strategy for avoidance or tax avoidance will be targeted. Since we came to power, the CRA has completed more than double the audits abroad than in the past. Fighting tax evasion and tax avoidance abroad is a priority for our government.
Bulkley Valley.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the leaders of the NDP, Conservative, Greens and Bloc all wrote the Prime Minister to insist that he do the honourable thing and respect the more than 300,000 Canadians who don't have a representative and call the by-elections. Right. I'm not sure these leaders could agree on what time of day it is, but they do agree that every Canadian deserves a voice in Parliament. The only one who doesn't agree is this Prime Minister. Let's remind him that this place doesn't belong to him, that the voices of all Canadians do respect and are deserving of a representative here. When he's going to do the right thing and call the by-elections.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we were pleased to call the by-election in Leeds Grenville. We look forward to calling the other by-elections soon because we know we are all looking forward to meeting on the campaign trail in those by-elections, and I recognize and applaud the enthusiasm of the members opposite for the electoral process.
Member for Skeena Bulkley Valley.
We just wish he shared that enthusiasm for the electoral process. When it comes to Liberal promises promises about respecting our democracy. They're about as hollow as the pumpkins I put on the front step last night. These guys, Mr. Speaker, all trick, no treat. Liberals betrayed their promise to make 2015 the last election under first past the post. They broke their promise not to ram through an election bill just like Stephen Harper did. And now this Prime Minister is holding these ridings hostage for his political games. He called by-elections just last year in less time than we've waited in York, Simcoe, Burnaby, and in Outremont. So what's the problem?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, all Canadians can be pleased that we move forward on significant election legislation that is going to ensure that, unlike the 2015 election, which was under the Conservatives' flawed elections plan, we are going to have fair elections that will allow people to vote right across the country, that will recognize real limits on the expenses of third parties and during pre-writ periods. We know that Canadians expect free and fair elections. That is exactly what we are delivering. Promise made, promise kept.
Order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it was a long and arduous journey, but the Liberals are starting to finally reveal the truth about their carbon tax. Yesterday was the Environment Minister and her Parliamentary Secretary who both admitted that the new Liberal carbon tax will kill jobs and make Canada less competitive. They said that it was bad for business. They admitted that that was the rationale for exempting large industrial emitters. So, will the Prime Minister recognize that it will also affect jobs in small and medium-sized businesses and give those companies the exact same break?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, climate change is real. We are the first generation to know what to do about it, but the last generation that's going to actually be able to do anything about it, and that is what we are doing. We have put forward a comprehensive plan to fight climate change, to work with provinces who are willing to do so right across the country, and make sure that we're putting a price on pollution. That is something that Canadians expect. The Conservatives don't have a plan to fight climate change, aren't even sure that climate change is real, and don't know how to meet their targets.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister was on TV in Quebec where he said that nothing Canada could do would have an impact on climate change. So he put forward a plan that will have no impact on climate change, Mr. Speaker, because he's given Canada's largest emitters a special deal. He recognizes that people who work in those companies will have their jobs threatened if they are forced to pay the full price of the carbon tax. So, simple question. For all those employees that work in small and medium-sized businesses, will they get the same deal?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we recognize that it's time that Canada had a real and concrete plan to fight climate change. That is exactly what we've put forward by putting a price on pollution. It's very simple, Mr. Speaker. Pollution is free, so we have too much of it. We put a price on it, we reduce pollution. That is what the essence of our plan is. We are moving forward in a way that supports families and indeed, yes, supports small and medium-sized businesses as we go through the transition towards a cleaner economy and towards protecting future generations. The Conservatives.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it's the Prime Minister's own plan that makes that pollution free. He's given massive exemptions to big businesses that can afford well-paid government lobbyists, but small and medium-sized businesses who don't have that ability are left bearing the full brunt. Now we learn that he's exempted coal-fired power plants from his carbon tax. So, why is this Prime Minister making pollution free and taxing individual Canadians and families?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member opposite for his question. It gives me an opportunity to highlight that we put a plan in place to phase out coal by 2030. Meanwhile, Stephen Harper's plan, which is the closest they have to an actual plan because they haven't put forward any plan, Stephen Harper's plan would have phased out coal by the 2060s, which is completely irresponsible. But what's even more irresponsible is the party opposite has no plan to phase out coal or act on climate change at all. They have no plan to do anything to tackle it as a challenge facing our kids, to make our air cleaner for kids and grandkids. We are acting while they are...
The Honourable Order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has put forward a plan that gives massive exemptions to the country's largest emitters. He's said to all those companies that had well-paid government lobbyists that could negotiate a special deal, no problem, 90% off on your carbon tax. And now we learn that there's a special deal for Canada's largest emitters in the electrical generation field. But why is it that when this Prime Minister always brings forward a plan, it's individual Canadians and families that bear the brunt? Why is this Prime Minister given a big break for polluters and a big tax for commuters?
The right honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, unlike the Conservatives, we believe that emissions need to go down and that we need to continue to create good middle-class jobs for Canadians. So what the Conservatives are saying is, surprise, surprise, factually wrong. We have set a target for industry to reduce pollution, and if they fail to meet that target, they pay the price. If they do better, for example, through innovation, then they are rewarded. Our plan will also give money directly to households where the federal backstop applies. The only mystery here, Mr. Speaker, is where is the Conservatives' plan?
No plan.
There's no plan.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister doesn't make a distinction between parliamentary work and a general election. It was not necessary to take action to direct the rules for the next election. Why does the Prime Minister think that he has the right to impose criteria for the future debates on Parliament? Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we made a promise to Canadians in 2015 to establish a commission for debates, precisely because the Conservative Party played with the rules to such an extent and elections that Canadians didn't have an opportunity to see national leadership debates during the last election. I understand that they would like to have this kind of confusion again this next time, but we promised Canadians that we would be establishing a debates commission, and that is exactly what we're doing because Canadians deserve to be well informed during the next election. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Debates in the last election than in generations. And the rules of those debates were agreed to by all parties coming together with major broadcasters. But this isn't the first time the Prime Minister has tried to rig the system to benefit himself. He tried to rig Canada's voting system. He tried to restrict the role that opposition parties play in parliamentary debate. He is ignoring the influence of foreign money in our elections while attempting to silence the voices of opposition parties. And now he's trying to unilaterally impose a new set of rules and new bureaucracy on election debates. Isn't it clear that the only kind of reforms that this Prime Minister is interested in are those reforms that benefit his party?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, we made a commitment to Canadians in 2015 that we would bring forward a debates commissioner, particularly because the Conservative Party so didn't want to be in debates last time that there was no English consortium debate. They did not allow that to happen, and far too many Canadians didn't have access to the debates that were held. We have promised to put forward a fair and level playing field for debates in this country. Unfortunately, that's something the Conservatives can't handle.
An honourable member for Esquimalt, Saanich, Sooke. Order.
Mr. Speaker, nearly a year ago, the Prime Minister stood in this House and apologized to the hundreds of members of my community who were kicked out of the Canadian Forces, often with dishonourable discharges. Now the government is refusing to revise the service records of those LGBTQ veterans to reflect their honourable service. Offering compensation through the class action lawsuit is fine, but this is more than a question of money to those who were kicked out. And certainly those veterans deserve more than just a note on their file that won't even say sorry. Why is the Prime Minister refusing to revise service records for those who were kicked out for being LGBTQ?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, apologizing to the LGBTQ community members who'd been discriminated against and marginalized by the Canadian government in decades past was an important step in moving forward. But we recognize there is always much more to do, and we will work with the community, work with LGBTQ veterans and others to ensure that as we move forward, we fix past errors and make sure that that kind of discrimination never has its place ever again in Canada for any community.
The honourable member for Windsor West.
Why is public shaming the most effective tools that get this Prime Minister to do the right thing? Now, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister knows organized criminals in India predicate on seniors, persons with disabilities, and other Canadians with bogus Revenue Canada phone calls, swindling millions of their dollars. After more than 60,000 complaints, we finally have some action by the RCMP, who publicly admitted and acknowledged that the pressure finally led to some government action. Will the Prime Minister tell us how we will follow up to ensure that these calls stop and to make sure that Canadians are protected against organized criminals in India?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we trust our security services and intelligence agents to do what needs to be done to protect Canadians at home and overseas. We will continue to work with partners around the world to go after criminals who are attacking or harming Canadians. This is something that we take very seriously and will continue to work on with the collaboration of all Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Richmond, Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, what we're hearing in this House is very troublesome. We've got the Prime Minister who is lecturing parliamentarians and Canadians, defending Statistics Canada, which is collecting confidential data, personal data on Canadians without their consent. And today we've learned that the Privacy Commissioner's office will be conducting an investigation on an issue we brought to the attention of the Prime Minister 3 days ago. Will he continue to defend StatsCan's methods? Will he put an end to this situation immediately? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, the government expects us to work with the Privacy Commissioner to ensure that the privacy of Canadians is always protected. We understand that it's a priority, and we will do our utmost to protect Canadians' privacy. That's why we support the work of the Privacy Commissioner, and we would point out that Statistics Canada has asked the Privacy Commissioner to take a deeper look into the current situation. The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, the media brought out information stating that StatsCan has been gathering information dating back 15 years, personal financial information on Canadians. And what's most serious is that this is without their consent, and this runs counter to the Access to Information Act. The Prime Minister is aware of the information. We have been repeating this since Monday, and he continues to so obstinately defend StatsCan. The Privacy Commissioner has just launched an investigation. Will he continue to be so obstinately defend StatsCan, or will he put an end to this? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we respect the work that is done by the Privacy Commissioner, and we allow him to do his work. StatsCan is the one that has asked for a deeper look into the program to ensure that the privacy of all Canadians is protected. We expect on this side of the House to always protect Canadians' privacy, and that is what we will continue to do.
For Milton.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister is so out of touch that he can't see the fact that Canadians have a big problem with the government having real-time data on how they go about their daily lives. Mr. Speaker, you go to Tim Hortons, the government knows you were there. You go to the grocery store, instantly the government knows that you're there. Mr. Speaker, this isn't right. Make a transfer to your son and daughter. The government knows you're there because you're using your debit card and they're getting all the transactions. Can the Prime Minister understand the invasion of privacy is so concerning to Canadians, or is he just so out of touch?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this government is unequivocal about protecting Canadians' privacy every step of the way, which is why we continually work with the Privacy Commissioner and ensure that all government agencies are protecting Canadians' privacy. But, Mr. Speaker, the member opposite is simply engaging in scary stories to try and frighten Canadians about some sort of big brother state when we know that the fundamental concern that Conservatives have really is about having policy based on evidence and not on their ideology, as they proved for 10 years.
Order. The honourable member for Milton.
Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, we have to rely upon what journalists are digging up because this government provides no information to us. But what I have read this morning, and I take it to be true, is that Statistics Canada, this government did seek real-time transactions, and that's exactly what I'm describing. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, Canadians have a big problem with the fact they weren't told that the information would be taken. The minister had an opportunity to report to Parliament last year the methods by which Statistics Canada is gathering data. He failed to include it in the report. Why is he hiding this from Canadians?
Order. The Honourable Minister for Innovation, the Honourable Member for Edmonton Riverbend, seem to be having a conversation. While, although it may be a pleasant conversation, perhaps they wish to do that without having the floor. They could do it outside. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, for 10 years under the Conservatives, they chose to govern by ideology, not by facts or science. When facts got in the way, they simply stopped collecting them. They fired the chief science advisor and eliminated the long-form census. We've brought back both. Now, Statistics Canada is engaged with the Privacy Commissioner's Office on this project and others to ensure that the information of Canadians remains protected. We will always protect the personal information and the privacy of Canadians.
Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
In 2015, Liberals promised to protect our environment and make polluters pay once and for all. But this weekend, the Liberals defy all logic with their new plan that lets some of the largest and wealthiest polluters pay less than $1 per ton of emissions. So Liberals want to put a price on pollution, but won't actually make polluters pay. Conservative premiers call for $1 a beer. Liberal Prime Minister call for $1 a ton. Liberal Tories, same old story. Does the Prime Minister actually think he's a real climate leader?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we know that emissions need to go down, and we need to continue creating good middle-class jobs for Canadians. What the NDP is saying is simply factually wrong. We set a target for industry to reduce pollution. If they fail to meet that target, they pay the price. If they do better, for example through innovation, they are rewarded. Our plan will also give money directly to households where the federal backstop applies. Unlike the NDP, we know that protecting the environment and growing the economy need to go together. While they're playing their rhetorical games, we are focusing on delivering on protecting the environment for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have decided the price on pollution in New Brunswick for a ton of greenhouse gases is $1. $1? These days, you can't buy anything for $1 except a ton of pollution. But that's not fighting against climate change. That's not protecting the environment. That's cynicism. The Liberals have said they want to put a price on pollution, but they don't want to make polluters pay. What a joke. Is that the Liberal plan? Pretending that they are protecting the environment and giving gifts to big emitters. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are putting a real price on pollution across the country. We would prefer working with the provinces, but the provinces who have not put forth an acceptable plan will see the federal plan imposed on them. We have a plan to help industry bring down pollution. If they don't, they will pay. But if they innovate, they will be rewarded. It's a plan which will work to protect the environment and to help grow the economy.
Christina and her husband operate the Blue Door Gallery in Brigus. Christina is originally from Brazil, but now makes Newfoundland and Labrador her home. She was delayed by the previous government's immigration policies, but thanks to our new streamlined processes, we've made it easier for Christina to attain her Canadian citizenship. Mr. Speaker, immigration is critical to our economy. We have an ageing population and labour market challenges across Canada, which are acutely felt in my region. Can the Prime Minister update this House on the Government's immigration vision for the coming year and beyond?
Excellent question.
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for Avalon on this important question and for his hard work. Generations of newcomers have been the engine of Canada's growth and have enriched our communities. We know the economic potential of responsible immigration. That's why our government has an ambitious immigration plan to address labour shortages, drive innovation, and create more middle-class jobs that will benefit all Canadians. In the past 3 years, we have cut backlogs, shortened wait times, and restored fairness. We will continue to build an immigration system that serves Canadians' needs today and well into the future.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, what should have happened happened yesterday. The Governor of the Bank of Canada said that small interest rates will be a thing of the past and that increases are what will happen next. But in the last 3 years, what has this government done? It's been irresponsible. It has spent so much money. It has tripled the deficit compared to what it had promised, and there's no promise to come back to ballast. The Prime Minister has thrown his promises into the garbage. Does he agree with the Governor of the Bank of Canada who said the party is over? Mr. Speaker, the Bank of Canada's interest rates show that the economy is strong. We have the highest growth rate in the G7 last year. We have created over 500,000 jobs across the country. We have the lowest unemployment rate in the last 40 years, and we are continuing. And it's working because we are investing in Canadians, in communities, and in the future we are building together for Canadians. Our plan is working, Mr. Speaker, as opposed to the Conservatives who in 10 years were not able to achieve growth.
The Prime Minister tells commuters that carbon taxes are the only way to fight climate change. But if I can quote even the CBC right here, the new federal proposal will exempt 800 tons of that from the carbon tax. That will allow 96% of Belledune's greenhouse gas emissions to pass through its giant 168-metre smokestack for free. Right. Mr. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister admit that his is a tax on commuters, not polluters?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are putting a price on pollution. We know that putting a price on pollution is the most efficient way of actually reducing pollution and spurring the kind of innovation that we need in Canada to prepare for the economy of tomorrow. The Conservatives don't have a plan. The Conservatives don't want to tackle climate change. They would prefer to spend their time spinning tales about what we're doing or not doing. Mr. Speaker, we are showing concrete leadership on fighting climate change. They are dragging their heels and trying to stay in the bad Harper.
Order. The honourable member for Carleton.
Well, now, Mr. Speaker, he's accusing CBC, whom I quoted directly, of spinning tails, and I will not allow that kind of attack on our property. Mr. Speaker, he is allowing coal-fired plants to have up to 96% exemption from his carbon tax. So again, same question. Isn't this just a new tax on commuters and not polluters?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite is mistaken because he must think we're still under Stephen Harper's plan that was phasing out coal by the 2060s. This plan, our approach, is to phase out coal by 2030, Mr. Speaker. We know that we need to take immediate action to fight climate change. That is why we have a comprehensive plan to fight climate change that includes putting a price on pollution when, quite frankly, the members opposite are going to run on making pollution free again, Mr. Speaker. That's not what any Canadians want.
Honourable member for Carleton.
Well, actually, it's precisely what the Prime Minister wants. His plan does make pollution free for the largest industrial polluters. They get an exemption for higher than, in this case, up to 96% of their emissions will be completely tax-free. Meanwhile, single mothers, soccer moms, small businesses, and seniors will pay the tax on 100% of the energy they use. Isn't this, again, a tax on commuters and not on polluters?
All right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this is putting a price on pollution so that we can fight climate change and grow our economy at the same time. The measures we're putting forward are actually going to leave Canadians better off in the places where we're having to bring in the federal system. But, Mr. Speaker, if the member opposite were to spend half the time working on his own plan as he is in trying to twist and torque and misdirect about our plan, they might actually have something constructive to add to the debate on the most pressing global issue our planet faces.
The honourable member for Saskatoon West.
Last year, Mr. Speaker, the Saskatchewan government killed the STC, and today Greyhound Canada's service ends at the stroke of midnight. The most vulnerable Canadians will suffer because of the uncertain future of safe public transportation across Western Canada. Mr. Speaker, people deserve better than disappearing bus routes and a last-minute promise of funding with no details and no timelines. When will the government tell Canadians how they'll ensure safe and equitable transportation for all? Thank you.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, we recognize the significance of Greyhound's sudden reduction in bus services for many Canadians, especially for seniors and for those in Indigenous, rural and remote communities. While private sector transportation companies have stepped up to provide continued bus service that will cover 90% of the affected areas, some gaps remain. That's why we are prepared to assist affected provinces and Indigenous communities in determining the best path forward and are open to considering avenues towards finding effective solutions for Canadians.
The member for Trois-Rivières. It's strange that preparations seem to happen once a deadline is passed. Today's the day that Greyhound will cease operations in Western Canada, and the market will probably step in to service the most profitable routes, but for many isolated communities, the carriage will probably change into a pumpkin, so to speak. The minister has been unable to reassure First Nations rural communities by explaining what exactly the government would do. What specific measures would be taken to prevent these regions from being cut off? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. It is concerning for many Canadians that Greyhound will cease its operations in many regions. It will be especially concerning for seniors and First Nations and vulnerable people. Private sector companies have offered to step in, which will help to service 90% of affected areas, yet we are willing to help the provinces and First Nations communities in particular to find the best way forward, and we are open to finding efficient solutions for Canadians.
Durham.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister misled veterans when it came to restoring lifetime pensions. He misled veterans when it came to his promise about not taking the Equitas veterans back to court. And now he's forcing a distinguished naval officer into court and denying him the very documents he needs to defend himself. Before the Prime Minister lets veterans down once again, will he commit today to providing Admiral Mark Norman's legal team the documents they need for him to defend himself?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'll take no lessons on treatment of our veterans from members of that former Conservative government. Since 2016, we have invested $10 billion for veterans programs and services. We've raised financial supports for veterans and caregivers. We've supported a continuum of mental health services. We've expanded a range of services available to families of medically released veterans. In Budget 2018, we announced $42.8 million to increase service delivery capacity and introduce the Pension for Life plan. We also reopened every single veteran service office that the Conservatives had shut down.
The honourable member for Durham.
Mr. Speaker, the one distinction between the Conservative government is we never lied to veterans, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister stood with the Minister of Defence, the member from Kelowna Lakes Country, and a number of people wearing their medals, promising to restore pensions and promising never to take veterans to court. He broke both promises, Mr. Speaker, and those veterans should be ashamed of themselves, Mr. Speaker. Now he's forcing a Canadian Forces officer into court over a Liberal cover-up that most of his ministers initiated, Mr. Speaker. Will he show some respect for our veterans and our legal system and give Mark Norman the document?
Further, obviously, I ask members to be judicious in their comments. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, we have invested in veterans. Since 2016, we have invested over $10 billion in our veterans in supports for them, for their families, in ensuring that there is treatment and supports on mental health, for PTSD. We've reopened the veteran service centers that they closed down, Mr. Speaker, across the country. Every step of the way, we have been there for our veterans. We recognize there's more to do, but we will continue to demonstrate that we recognize the valor of their service, the support they deserve, and we won't use them for cheap political stunts the way the Conservatives always have.
The order, please. The member for Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, Veterans Affairs will be able to judge in October of next year. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and his ministers are still refusing to answer questions about Vice Admiral Normal. We see them help criminals and terrorists and lawbreakers any way they can, but when it comes to holding a fair and transparent trial for a distinguished military officer, will the Prime Minister allow his clerk of the Privy Council to testify about the documents, whether they've been destroyed or not? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After 10 years of under-investing in our Veterans Affairs, we are happy to have received the support of veterans in 2015, and we are looking forward to them supporting us again in 2019. Because we have given them exactly what they need. We have invested over $10 million in veterans programs and services. We have increased financial support for veterans and their caregivers. We have offered a continuum of mental health care, and we have reopened all of the veterans services offices which the Conservatives had shut down. The Honourable Member for Montarville. Mr. Speaker, phone scams are becoming more ubiquitous in Canada, and Canadians are concerned these scams are more sophisticated, and as a result, Canadians are finding it harder to know whether a call is legitimate or not. A recent documentary showed that call centers in India are targeting Canadians. Can the Prime Minister tell this House what the government is doing to protect them? Mr. Speaker, thank you to the member for Montarville for its attention to this issue and for his hard work. I was happy to learn that over the last 2 weeks, police forces in India made arrests and seized equipment in illegal call centers. And these results are part of the work carried out by the RCMP to fight against these fraudulent call centers and protect Canadians. These scams are an international problem, and the RCMP is protecting Canadians.
It's, quote, a true partnership between the federal government and the provinces. Yep. Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario oppose Bill C-69. The Premier of Ontario says Bill C-69, quote, holds back natural resource development for the whole country, and that C-69 is, quote, the worst possible news at the worst possible time for Canada's energy industry. He's right. So will the Prime Minister listen to Premiers Ford, Moe, and his good friend Notley and kill his No More Pipelines Bill C-69?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, for 10 years, the Conservatives tried in vain to get our resources to new markets other than the United States. They were unsuccessful because they refused to understand that getting new projects built requires partnership with Indigenous peoples, defense and protection of environmental science, and thoughtfully working with businesses to give them the certainty that they need to move forward. That's exactly what we're doing in C-69. We are demonstrating that we understand the way we were able to with LNG Canada can get things.
The Honourable Member for London Fanshawe.
Yesterday, New Democrats raised the issue of Canada Post denying CUPW members short-term disability during the ongoing labour dispute. Today, we hear that Canada Post is also going after maternity leave top-up. Ironic, because it's thanks to CUPW that we have maternity leave top-up at all. Not only is this mean-spirited, it skirts federal law. The minister indicated that she won't interfere with collective bargaining. Fine. But will she stand by while her Crown Corporation violates federal law?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, since we took office in 2015, we have been working with organized labor in this country. We've been working with employers in this country and demonstrating that we understand that collaboration at the bargaining table and respectful engagement is the best way of moving forward. We don't believe in political interference at the bargaining table on either side. Unlike the two parties opposite, we will continue to respect the capacity to do collective bargaining at the table, and we hope that all parties reach the right settlement.
Honourable Member for Etobicoke Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, we must look ahead and pursue new technologies to find solutions and provide a sustainable future for our children. Yes. We know that we don't have to sacrifice the environment to create jobs and provide economic benefits to Canadians. True. This government believes developing Canada's resources in a cleaner, more sustainable ways will create good middle-class jobs, enhance competitiveness, and reduce pollution. Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister update this House on steps this government is taking to modernize Canada's resource development practices while maintaining the necessary balance between environmental stewardship and economic expansion and job creation?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I thank the member for Etobicoke Lakeshore for his hard work on this issue. Canadians increasingly value sustainable practices to provide economic benefits. We have recently invested $5 million to position the Borden mine as the mine of the future. This will be the first underground mine to replace all diesel mobile equipment with battery electric vehicles, bringing significant environmental benefits to the mining sector by reducing greenhouse gas emissions. This project will also help create 250 jobs in to communities and Indigenous peoples in Northern Ontario.
L'honorable député de Bellechasse.
The member for Bellechasse, Les Etchemins-Lévis. Listen to this, Mr. Speaker. To procure by 2018 a second Resolve class auxiliary oiler replenishment ship to address an urgent capability gap plan on each coast. Who made this recommendation? Well, it was the Senate Defense Committee with a majority of Liberals sitting on it, yet the Prime Minister is asleep at the switch and is dragging his feet on awarding the Obélix contract to the Davie shipyard. Our Navy's needs are pressing. Ship workers are standing by. What does the Prime Minister have against Quebec? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we recognize the expertise of the Davie ship workers who have done an outstanding work to build the Asterix this year. A $610 million contract was given to the Davie shipyard for the 3 icebreakers and for the transformation of another ship. When the Conservatives were in power, they shunted Davie aside in their shipbuilding strategy, including the important work the shipyard could have done. So our government is still supporting shipbuilding across the country, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Manicouagan. Mr. Speaker, the United Steelworkers have been on the Hill for 3 weeks this year to defend the rights of retirees who've lost their pensions and their insurance when the company they worked for went bankrupt. They still haven't met with the minister. This government likes to claim it defends the middle-class seniors and workers. Yeah, right. If that was the case, he would have met with the workers and supported my bill to protect retirees. If the minister refuses to meet with the United Steelworkers, even though they are available on the Hill right now, would the Prime Minister meet with them? And the Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we believe that at the end of their working lives, Canadians deserves a good retirement. In our 2018 budget, we committed to adopting a pan-governmental approach based on evidence to ensure that all Canadians have a good retirement. We are continuing with the good work we have started. We have improved the Canada Pension Plan. We have increased old age security for the most vulnerable seniors, and we will keep on working to support Canadians in their retirement. And this ends question period.
The Honourable Member for Perth Wellington. Oh. I'm sorry, one moment please, if you don't mind. I'm sorry, we have a question of privilege and we're going to have to take that in precedence. The Honourable Member for New Westminster, New Burnaby Westminster.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise today on a point of privilege regarding the bill that was just tabled in the House, the 850 pages of it. This is a massive bill that was delivered to all the members in the House.
Going to be raising an accompanying point of order on this very same legislation. Now, Mr. Speaker, as you well know, this is the most massive omnibus legislation that has ever been tabled in the House of Commons. 850 pages, far beyond what we saw even under the previous Harper regime, where Liberals at the time complained of 200 or 300-page omnibus legislation and pledged to end it. Mr. Speaker, today, the 850-page